Hello, Namaskar. Welcome to my pod, the CAA Show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis, and my name is Juggi Bhasin. Why exactly is the Foreign Minister, Mr. Jaishankar, going to Pakistan? Has the announcement that he would be visiting Pakistan has come as a bit of a surprise? Some would even say shock to many people in the country, because all along we had been led to believe that we have now nothing really to do with Pakistan. Therefore, why would a person of the stature and the eminence of Mr. Jaishankar be visiting Pakistan, going for this SCO meet? Why couldn't a junior minister, for instance, if somebody had to go in the first place, had gone to Pakistan? I'm going to argue in this podcast that this visit of Mr. Jaishankar is actually very, very important. It's very essential that he visits Pakistan, but not for the reasons that you might be thinking. He's certainly not going there for some Aman ki Asha or something like that. He's going for something entirely different, and that something is again something which I haven't got to know from the government. Nobody from the government, even if they know why exactly is he going, are they going to talk to me? This is just my surmise, this is just my guesswork, this is my connecting the dots, and I'm going to tell you my point of view why exactly I think Mr. Jaishankar is going to Pakistan. I think those are for entirely different reasons. But let it be known that right now, even as we speak, a lot of people in the country are reacting emotionally and not thinking this issue through. They're all asking this question again and again: what is the need for him to visit Pakistan and give some kind of a legitimacy to the government there? Maybe some kind of an appeasement tactic or anything. Nothing of that sort, I promise you. Also, keep into mind that there's a lot which is going on in West Asia. The Middle East conflict now is really getting bad to worse, and that is another reason why Mr. Jaishankar would be visiting this part of the world. I'm going to talk about all these issues in this podcast, but before I do that, as usual, I would urge all of you to please subscribe to my channel, the CAA Show. It's very, very simple, really. All you have to do is to press that red button on your screen. Subscription is, of course, completely free. Would also appreciate if you could like the show and share this video with your friends, your colleagues, and your peers. Well, thanks for listening for this message. Now let's come back to this very, very interesting topic. Why exactly is Mr. Jaishankar going to Pakistan? I'm repeating again, it is not for some kind of an Aman ki Asha or some kind of a rapprochement or some kind of a détente. Détente, by the way, was a word which was used during the Cold War between the then Soviet Union and America to kind of cool off, to kind of, the relations were so terrible at that time that détente was some kind of a peace initiative. So he is certainly not going to Pakistan for some détente or rapprochement, as I said. And he is also not certainly going for, as some people would be thinking, oh, maybe he's going there to prepare the ground for a Modi visit to Pakistan. Nothing of that sort is on the anvil. This thing I can say with conviction. And also, he is not going to Pakistan, for some people believe, to maybe appease some sections of the opposition out here. People who have been advocating that we have a more flexible line vis-a-vis Pakistan. He's not going for that also. And therefore, I have started my reasoning by first giving you the reasons why he is not going. I'm now going to give you reasons why I think he is going to Pakistan. To my mind, again, as I said, these are not from any sources in the government. This is purely my estimation. I think he is going to Pakistan to maybe just rectify a little bit of a mistake we have made since 2019. As you all know, that 370 was scrapped, and relations with Pakistan were next to nothing after that. And we also have been proclaiming from the rooftops that now we have nothing to do with Pakistan, we don't want to engage with them. I think that policy might just be tweaked a little bit, but for what reasons, I'm going to explain all that to you in this podcast. But know this: Pakistan is an enemy state. Let's make no bones about it, and it is, unfortunately, by all accounts, it is destined, I would say, or there is no escaping it, that it is bound to remain an enemy state in the future also. But the big question is, how do you deal with the enemy state? Do you deal with an enemy state by ignoring it, or do you deal with an enemy state by engaging with it? And if you want to engage with an enemy state, then how do you engage, and for what purposes should you be engaging with an enemy state? That's what I think I'm going to try and answer in this podcast. Now, again, as I said, this is my estimation. There's no proof of all this. But I think maybe Mr. Jaishankar might just give a signal in Pakistan this time that, okay, we are prepared to a little bit engage with you. Let's move forward from a policy of no talks, nothing at all, to at least strengthening our diplomatic presence in both countries, number one. And maybe Mr. Jaishankar might just offer some little bit of sops here and there, so that engagement, a little bit of engagement starts, and the diplomatic presence can be beefed up, strengthened, as we say, a little bit, especially in Pakistan, in Islamabad. Now, why do I say that? When I say that, what I mean by that is that when you deal with the enemy, then you have to engage with the enemy. And why should you be engaging with the enemy? You should be engaging with the enemy because a policy of see no evil, hear no evil, stay away from all that is not a great policy. We actually have closed our eyes and ears to what is really going on in Pakistan. But once you strengthen your diplomatic presence, then you are aware of what really is going on in that country. It's one thing to gather your news, it is one thing to gather your information from YouTube, and it is completely another thing where on the ground your diplomatic staff, your intelligence operatives, where agents of RAW who are posted under a diplomatic cover, they gather intelligence in Pakistan. That is the real purpose, I think, and that is why we need to strengthen our diplomatic activities in Pakistan, legitimize the diplomatic activities a little bit more, to gather intelligence as to what really is going on in Pakistan. Because, it's one thing, kids fight over and they say, oh, I'm not going to talk to you forever or whatever. That is not how you engage in international relations. That is not how, even within enemy countries, you kind of completely shut off and you say, I have nothing to do with you. That's not how it works. I think that has been working a little bit to our detriment, and we have to keep two factors in mind. The first factor is, of course, the West Asia crisis, and the other factor is because of these renewed Pakistani terrorist attacks in Jammu, especially, though the attacks have come down and the situation is much better, but still we know what mischief Pakistan can crank up at short notice. It's also for that particular reason. So I'm arguing in this podcast that maybe Mr. Jaishankar is actually going to Pakistan to very subtly, in a very astute manner, in a very clever manner, to maybe send a signal that, okay, we can have a little bit of a back and forth between you guys. We can let's start by strengthening diplomatic presence in both the countries. And the reason for that is because we want our intelligence operatives, we want our people to be in the know of the ground situation in Pakistan. And also remember a time-tested rule that diplomacy is nothing else but a first step towards eventually spying on another country. I mean, it's a very hard truth, a very harsh truth which I'm talking about, but that is a fact that not all diplomats, but a lot of diplomats actually are also, in a certain sense, intelligence people, intelligence operatives to a certain extent. They gather information, and just imagine if you are there stationed in, let's say, in Islamabad, then Obviously, the Pakistanis also will mount surveillance on you. They will track all the activities of all the diplomats, everybody out there. But despite that, you can still gather real-time intelligence in Islamabad. And the number two factor, which we should not forget, that once you are stationed in Islamabad, you are there in that country, then you moved in the diplomatic circuit in Islamabad, in the other centers in Pakistan. You are meeting other diplomatic personnel. You pick up gossip. You pick up vital pieces of information. These nuggets of information are very, very important. And that real-time intelligence then is passed on back to New Delhi. And that is why you need people in Islamabad. You need people in Pakistan to facilitate that activity. And I have a feeling the government probably, because I think our foreign policy under Mr. Jaishankar has been a tremendous success, but he wants to enhance it even more. And maybe now the government has coming around to this consensus that, okay, let's give a little bit of a wriggle room, let's give a little bit of a elbow room to the Pakistanis, open that space a little bit, send our people in there, and then we get real-time intelligence on what these guys are up to. And number two, also let's not forget the fact, we also have to keep in touch. We have to know the real-time politics of the political parties in Pakistan. And how do you do that? You can't just, as I said, rely on YouTube or the world news and to see what's going on in Pakistan. You need to see on the ground what's going on out there, as all diplomats should, of any embassy or high commission. And therefore, in the high commission, we need both sets of astute diplomats and also intelligence operatives who keep a track of what Pakistan is up to. And that's the reason, I think, why Mr. Jaishankar actually is probably going out there. Number two, also something very interesting has happened is that the West Asia conflict especially, I think, has taught not only us, but I think the entire world actually has taught a very, very important lesson, that more than electronic surveillance, humanate intelligence is very, very important. Now, just for the people who don't know what humanate intelligence is human intelligence. Quite literally, that is your operatives on the ground. Those are your physical assets, we say, men and women, they could be leading completely different lives. They might be diplomats, or there could be anything. Defense attaches, whatever you want to call it. Now, these human intelligence operatives, they gather real-time intelligence. They keep a track. For instance, in Pakistan, where exactly are the terrorist commanders? Where exactly are the terrorist cells? That intelligence is far, far more valuable than electronic intelligence. And no clearer example of that was October 7th last year, when we know Israel faced that massive attack from Hamas. And how did that happen? Because I think the big mistake the Israelis had done was that they were completely relying a lot, I would say, on electronic surveillance. Human intelligence probably had gone down, and I think they have realized that. And therefore, in that same context, there's so much to learn from this West Asian crisis, that if you look at it very carefully at to what is going on in West Asia, because that has pointers to our situation with Pakistan also. There have been two aspects of this West Asian crisis which have a bearing. The first one is those pagers episode. Pagers exploding and killing and maiming and debiliating so many of Hezbollah operatives, senior leadership of the Hezbollah, even the elimination of Nasrallah. How did that happen? That happened not because of electronic surveillance, that happened because of human intelligence, because there were human assets of the Israelis which had penetrated the intelligence apparatus of the Hezbollah. There is now a rumor that is going around, it might be true, that the Hezbollah, the Iranian, they had set up what is called some kind of an anti-Mossad cell to track the activities of Israel, and that person who was heading that particular cell was actually a Mossad agent, which is, as I said, a human intelligence. It couldn't get better than that the person who is heading that entire cell is actually an operative of the Israeli secret services. What I'm trying to tell you is the value of human intelligence is tremendous. Nothing can replace that. No electronic surveillance, either on the ground or from the air or from sea, land, Mars, anywhere, can match the capability of the human being. And that is why I'm saying again and again that we need to have our operatives back in Pakistan, and therefore it is important to have some kind of an engagement going on in Pakistan. I'm not even suggesting that we start with this Aman Kasha route, or we start doing trade gets flowing between India and Pakistan. Maybe you can offer a few stops here and there, because we all know the economic situation of Pakistan. It's a basket case right now, so they would probably welcome some stops which are thrown at their way. That's fine. But we are doing it for a far greater purpose, that is to keep what is called a close track. We closely track the developments in Pakistan from the inside. That is the idea. And therefore, just to go back to the West Asian crisis, two more important things we need to keep the lessons which we are learning again from the West Asia conflict is that yes, Israeli is have a very superior military. They have the will, they have the courage, and they have the technology. All that is there. But even then, besides that, as you can see in this conflict, even the weaker side can give you blows which nobody would like. We know that some air bases, Israeli air bases, have suffered damage. Maybe there have been casualties. I'm not too sure of that. In the missile strike launched by Iran. And all this tells us a story that you cannot just rely on a superior military or on superior or on your superior electronic gathering surveillance activities to defeat the enemy. You need something more than that. So, as I said, the Pages script, the Pager episode was a great success for the Israelis. But now there has been a little bit of a partial success for the Iranians with the missile strike they have launched on Iran, because there are estimates which are varying that maybe from 10% to even 30-40% some of the missiles got through. And as I said, one way of defeating all this is that you have human intelligence which have penetrated the services of the other side, and therefore you have a bit of a pre-warning that what is coming for you, what is in store for you. And that probably is another reason why Mr. Jaishankar is keeping all this in mind. Please remember, he is one of those rare administrators, bureaucrats and politicians certainly now, man of exceptional intelligence, who actually more than anyone I can think of who connects the dots so brilliantly, he's probably factored all these things in mind, and maybe that's the reason why he actually stepped up to the game and said that, yeah, okay, I'll go to the SCO meet, even though, please remember, it's a bit of a risk for him to go there. Pakistan is never an easy country to go, but he's taking that risk, he's going there. And I suspect somewhere that it could be for these very reasons that he wants to create a certain narrative. He wants to then embellish, he wants to make the diplomatic presence a little more robust in Islamabad to engage in all these activities. And the last point we need to remember is that sometime back we were getting all these reports that we were getting these reports that there were these targeted strikes which are happening in Pakistan, and there's an assumption maybe RAW agents were involved in it, or at the very least they had outsourced this activity to some third party. Again, all this is guesswork, conjecture, nothing is proven. But let us for a moment assume that this was true, that there was some kind of covert intelligence activity where we were coordinating these strikes on these terrorist commanders in Pakistan. A lot of these terrorist commanders were bumped off, as we know. Assuming that is true, then my simple question which I'm asking is, would it not be better if that activity was coordinated from within Pakistan, from within the High Commission, rather than from New Delhi? You see the logic of where I'm getting at? Assuming we were doing that, then there would have to be a central person, a central figure, maybe some people who would be coordinating that activity, and they would better coordinated activity from the High Commission itself. That's the point which I'm getting at, that even from that point of view, that you want to continue the way to pay back Pakistan, to get back at Pakistan, is through these covert activities. If the government is doing that, then those central points of coordinations, the people who would be carrying out that coordination, they would be better served if they are ensconced within the High Commission in Islamabad rather than sitting in New Delhi. And that is the other reason why we need our intelligence operators, we need our people to be in the High Commission in Islamabad. And therefore, as a larger overview, I think the Foreign Minister is keeping all these factors in mind when he is going to Pakistan. We of course wish him well, hope the visit goes off well and he achieves his objectives. I personally don't think so. He's just going there. Some podcasters are saying, oh, he will go there to lecture Pakistan and give it back to them. Diplomacy, intelligence operations are not run in this absolutely childish, stupid manner. It's a far, far more subtle game. It's actually called the spying game. The spying game is something which has layers and layers and layers in it. And this is one of the layers which I have a feeling, as I am assuming, Mr. Jaishankar is exploring. But we'll have to wait and see which way this entire thing happens, how the visit goes, what kind of steps we are prepared to take. But know this, that I think right now the foreign ministry is in really fine nick. We're making some very important, lethal, far-reaching moves, and maybe this is another part of that move, something which had been missing from our repertoire, from our armory. I think that deficiency, Mr. Jaishankar is addressing to that deficiency, whatever you want to call it, and maybe this could be another strike option which we will, which Mr. Jaishankar is exploring. And once that happens, then it would be much, much better for us that we track everything that is going on within Pakistan from within Pakistan itself. And so on this note, I come to the end of this podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this particular show. Do watch my show, subscribe to it. And until next time, obviously, it's goodbye and cheers from my end.